Bonjour. What was that?
That was a car
A car?
making a little squeak.
Sounded like a tinkling noise.
Yeah, it was like a little squeak.
Bonjour, ça va? Oh. Good. Welcome. B-L-O-O-D-Y, welcome to this week's
Sunday chat.
glorious, glorious.
You look quite tanned.
Do I?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've been covering up and wearing my hat and my balaclava.
There was a guy looking at you, and I think he was looking at you because of your hat.
Why?
Because it's quite
Well,
wide.
yeah, it covers everything. I want to remain milky white, like alabaster.
Well, you haven't succeeded this year.
No, I do naturally get tanned as the summer goes on. But it's a golden glow rather than a leathery finish.
That's me, is it?
Well, I touched you, so that indicated the leathery finish. Yes.
I moisturise.
You know what? I've stopped moisturising.
Have you?
Yeah, because, I don't tend to cleanse the face either. I just use water. And actually, you know what? I found my skin is better for it.
Good.
It's the clearest it's been for a long time. I haven't got any spots, I don't think. But yeah, pure water. That's pure water by Mother Earth.
Well, it's not, is it?
By Thames Water.
Yeah. If it was by Mother Earth, then
Yeah,
it
but
would
it's-
be coming really out of a stream.
Yeah, but it's part of the water cycle. We're drinking the same water that Marilyn Monroe drank. Yeah,
What, the exact same water?
apparently.
Well, there we are.
And the dinosaurs.
Is that why you sort of can do all that posing and things? Because
Yes.
you've got essence of Marilyn inside you.
Always.
So actually, we're drinking her wee.
Yeah.
How lovely!
Drink Marilyn's wee for that perfect complexion. So anyway, let's get on with the show, Paul. So weather. Now we've got a few things to say about the weather this week, haven't we, Paul? Yes, we have. It's very hot at the moment.
And it's going to get hotter. It's going to break. So it's Saturday morning. It's going to break 30 degrees today, which would be...
No, that's tomorrow, they said 30.
I thought they said today.
No, 28 today.
Oh, there we are. This
Not
weekend, it will break 30 degrees, which is quite early for us for that to happen, isn't it?
No.
Sort of August time that happens.
Well, no, it can happen in July as well. It's scorching out there at the moment. We got out early this morning for a constitutional up the canal.
Early-ish.
And, well, we woke up at just before 6.
I woke up at 5:30.
And we were out by 7:30.
Richard took an hour to make a cup of tea.
No, I didn't. We were out by 7:30. That was early.
Were we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were actually.
Yeah, good and early. Up the canal and round the fields.
Meadows.
The meadows, fields, whatever you like to call them.
And, well, the meadows and the fields, actually.
Both. And that was good. And it was quiet and...
It was very quiet. I said to you at one point, didn't I, you can hear the train. And you said to me, nothing, because he completely ignored me.
There's a plane.
The plane! The plane!
You know, you look a little bit like him. Anyway, scorching. There's hardly a breath of wind either.
Well, there isn't any wind, actually.
There is now.
There is a breeze. Because, there's scales of wind. So we don't have any wind, we've got a breeze.
Well, I'm sorry for not knowing the bloody scales of wind, Paul.
Well, you go from, like light
wind
breeze
is measured on the Beaufort
breeze.
scale, Paul.
You have breath. You have a breath. And then you have a breeze. And then I think you have wind. And then you have gusts.
Well, it's gusty now.
That's not gusty, that's a strong breeze.
Anyway, yeah, all right. not interesting or clever.
What? Because you don't find it interesting or clever? I don't think it's clever. It's not meant to be clever.
Shush now, Paul. Honestly. God. So, scorching with a breath of wind now. Slight gusts, which is refreshing, but we do what we normally do in summer. Shut everything up. Keep all the sun away. Unlike some of the British people who open all the doors and windows throughout the day and expect it to get cooler. It's not going to.
No.
You've got to shut the sun out. So we do that and our front room stays quite nicely cool.
Well, what? Because the sun sort of rises at the back of the house-ish and sets at the front of the house, we have the back of the house, we might sort of close that up in the morning, and then the front of the house we close up in the afternoon.
You open up the side that's in shade.
Yeah.
And then a good tip is to open all the windows first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
First thing, because there is a freshness, a coolness that blows through.
And if it's the middle of winter, you open all the windows as well.
Well,
don't
I do.
you?
I like a good
Open the
blow-through.
windows and whack the heating right up.
Yeah, it's called airing the house.
It's called wasting money.
Well, you use it, you pay for it. But on that subject of climate change and issues, we do have to acknowledge the horrendous situation in Germany.
And Belgium.
And Belgium.
And America. And other places.
Yeah, but in terms of absolute disaster
Devastation.
and devastation, Germany, the floods, I mean, awful. We've had a smaller version in London last week as well. We had torrential rain. And
On Monday evening.
at the beginning of the week, yeah. And I know that several areas, Barnes, Kilburn, had absolutely awful floods and people literally lost everything.
Yeah.
And of course in Germany there have been the most horrendous scenes on the news. So, you know, our hearts go out to people suffering through those circumstances. Absolutely awful. We're not going to dwell on it. We know you're not here for that. But you know, we have to acknowledge that. We've got to.
But I was listening to somebody yesterday who was saying this is a once in a lifetime thing, and it had another person saying no, don't expect this once in a lifetime.
No.
Expect this regularly.
I mean, the thing is, you know, you hear people over the years say, "Oh, this house has been here for 300 years. It's not going anywhere." Well, think again.
Yeah.
Think again. I mean, we were walking down the end of Green Lane, which is where I work, and at the beginning of the week with the torrential rain, there was a bit of a flood going on down there, and you can clearly see that the drain had popped at some point, and because there's remnants of what looks like toilet tissue and
Well, they
things.
have sewage issues down that
And
road.
I said to you, didn't I? I said it only takes a few of those events to start undermining the fabric of the streets and the drains. You know, you have those events repeated over time and things are going to start wearing away. And it only takes a big chunk of something to come off to set a chain reaction in place.
Well, not even a big
Doesn't
chunk.
it?
It's just I mean, that's the whole story, isn't it? Of the little boy with his finger in the dike. That's the thing, you know. Just a few grains of sand can start coming out, and then it becomes, you know, millimeters, and it becomes centimeters and inches. And
Water gets in.
Yeah.
That's the problem with
Ingress.
water. It gets into the tiniest little nook and cranny. I mean, it's like our washing machine, Paul. There can be a tiny little hair
Oh yes, yeah.
trapped in the door seal, yeah, and the water can start dripping out from a hair. A hair. Let's move on.
Maybe we should shave our heads. Then there wouldn't be any hairs.
There wouldn't be any programme either. Because I wouldn't be appearing on camera with a shaved head. I don't think so.
Well, you might be.
It's not going to happen.
not
Shush
gonna
now,
happen.
Paul. We'd like to say a big thank you to our members on Planet Vegetaria, which is a fantastically active group
It is.
on Facebook. That's a Facebook group by Richard and Paul. Richard and Paul since 2017. That's contractual.
It's really active at the moment.
Really
I mean,
active.
there's new
Fantastic.
members joining regularly, which
Thank
is
you.
great.
Welcome.
But the wonderful thing is, it's great to have lots of members, but what's really great and the important thing is that people are engaging.
Yeah.
And the engagement is really, really high. It's increasing. And I do try and read everything on Planet Vegetaria. I do, and like it, and maybe comment as well. But I'm finding I might not be able to continue doing that because there's so much activity.
Well, I think people realise that, Paul.
Well, yeah.
You can't read everything.
No, but I generally do. So if you are putting something, it's very likely I'm going to read it, even if I forget to like it. But I mean, it's great. But one thing that a lot of people are talking about at the moment are the state of their tomatoes. Either how late they are, how blighted they are, how challenging it is to grow them this year. And yeah, I mean, it's, I think on one comment, I can't remember who posted it, but somebody said something like, my tomatoes are terrible this year. And there's over sort of 40 comments on there.
I think it was Sue, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah. And it's, yeah, I mean, we'll come on to my tomatoes in a week at the plot. But it is such a challenging year. And the interesting thing is, it's not just in the UK. Our members in Europe and in America are also saying that they're having issues with tomatoes. Interestingly, someone was saying that they're having a lot of blossom end rot, which I guess is not surprising. But their Roma tomatoes, which I found for us really had a propensity for blossom end rot, their Roma tomatoes were absolutely fine. So isn't that interesting?
Well, I mean, we're in the lucky position that we're both working, so we're not relying on our crops to feed us because we can buy food. So I guess we will have to consider purchasing tomatoes.
Yeah,
I mean, they're never any good, are they? Those bog standard salad tomatoes, as they call them.
I mean,
they're awful, aren't they?
They're awful. I mean,
we'll have to spend some money, won't we?
Well, yes, I was thinking of going to the farmers market because they always have good ones.
That's a good idea.
But that's on a Saturday morning, and I'm not there at the moment to be rushing to places and where there's lots of people.
No.
We're still going to be maintaining our distance from many people.
Yeah.
And mask wearing. So there we are. But yeah, we're many of the tomatoes that you buy in shops, salad tomatoes. I mean, I remember Guernsey tomatoes used to be so flavoursome. And then, of course, the tomato industry in Guernsey collapsed because of supermarkets in the UK having contracts with them and then moving those contracts to Holland. So that all collapsed. And those, as you say, those salad tomatoes you buy now,
they never look ripened. Maybe you should leave them out on the side to ripen a little bit more.
I tell you what amazed me. When I was in Marks and Spencer's, most probably about 10 years ago, with Mum, and Mum and I both laughed at this, there was a packet of tomatoes, looked absolutely lovely, and on the outside of the packet it said, grown for flavour.
Well, why else would you grow them?
I mean, what?
I mean, you wouldn't put grown to be bland and watery.
No.
Would you? I mean, but they are
maybe
bland.
They should.
They are bland and watery, those salad tomatoes. I mean, you can improve the flavour of a tomato. Say you're grilling them.
Yeah.
One little secret that I'd like to share with you all? If I've got a bog standard tomato and I'm doing like a breakfast or something, or I'm roasting them, a pinch of herbs, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar.
Oh,
You heard it here first. It does improve them. It gives them a
It
sweetness
does.
which you need in really bland tomatoes. So you can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
but I mean, why would you grow anything not for flavour?
Yeah, we've
you know.
done that now.
I know, but I
We've
mean,
done
you know,
that
what
now.
that implies is it's being grown for profit. If it's not
Of course
being
it
grown for
has.
flavour and nutrients and fibre, it's being grown for profit.
Well, of course it has. They wouldn't not grow them for profit.
Well,
These
I
are
know.
not for profit tomatoes.
Excessive profit. We're
Well,
going to
always
grow
greed.
something that's cheap and tasteless, so that people can have a slice of tomato that tastes of nothing on their plate.
And never know what a real tomato tastes like.
Yeah, I mean,
Really? No, I mean a real good juicy big tomato grown on the plot, still warm from harvesting in warm sunshine. There's nothing better.
no, there isn't.
Anyway, let's move on now, Paul, from the tomatoes. We also wanted to say a big thank you to our coffee supporters on our coffee page, where you can buy us a coffee. It's lovely.
Well, you can contribute to buy us coffee. We don't necessarily use it for a coffee.
And I'd also like to say as well, this is a little bit of a milestone for us. I know some people will think, oh God, really? But we've reached 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Well done.
Isn't it lovely? It'll drop down now because some people are mean.
Do people engage with your photos?
Yes,
Do they?
yes.
Oh, well, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's fun. I like Instagram. I think it's good. And I love looking at nice images,
Yeah.
you know. And I think I've followed quite a number of people as well. So, yeah, it's all lovely. Lovely, special.
Do you follow Herbaceous Hoarder?
I think so.
Right, okay.
I think so.
That's one of our plot holders who grows lots of flowers and makes wonderful sort of bouquets. Yeah.
Bouquets.
Yeah.
Bouquet.
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 Like bouquet garni.
Bouquet garni. Bouquet.
Bouquet. Bouquet.
Yeah, B-O-U is boo.
Bouquet.
Like a moose bush.
A moose bush.
Not a moose bush, is it? No.
Well,
Well, it could
hopefully
be.
not, no. Yeah.
Anywho, Paul, we've been out a couple of times for some good walks. We both need to walk. We need more exercise. We need to push the boundaries and lose the weight. Because, you know, so we've had a couple of walks where we've got the rate up a little bit, you know, getting the sweat on.
We went up
getting
to
that
the Chilterns yesterday.
heart rate up.
And that was quite, we did.
We pushed it.
We pushed it.
It was
yeah.
good. But it was beautiful. Beautiful.
It was.
In the coolness of the canopy of the trees.
The forest.
Away, well, it's not a forest, it's a woodland.
Well, it's woodland, yeah.
It's not a forest, Paul, it's not big enough to be a forest.
What are forests made of?
Trees.
And what are trees made of?
Wood.
Oh, it's woodland.
No, a forest is a certain size, Paul. Has to be over a certain number of hectares, I think.
Are we going back to like breath, breeze,
Yes, Paul.
wind, gust? So a copse, how many trees is a copse?
What? What? No, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, right, okay. So how many trees is a wood?
I don't know, but I'm sure Wikipedia will tell you. Anyway, let's move on now because we don't want this to be like.
But
50
one
billion
thing that we
minutes
did
long.
see yesterday, and you pointed it out, was the actual leaves, the shadow of leaves on the floor of the woods.
The shadow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with the sun coming
with
through.
the sun coming through.
And there's circles.
Yeah, and they were like the little, well, quite big suns because some of them were like a foot.
Well, maybe not everybody knows this, but when you see the dappled sunlight coming through, if you look, you'll see that most of them are round.
Yeah.
And they're actually pictures of the sun, because the sun is round and it's casting its image through the small gaps between the leaves. So look next time, you'll see those pools of light. They are little miniature pictures of the sun. Just like you do with a pinhole doodah.
Camera.
You know, when you put a pinhole up to the sun
On a piece of paper.
and then another piece of paper, you will get an exact round picture that you can focus, and that's a picture of the sun. Be aware, never look at the sun directly.
Never look at the sun directly.
Okay, lovely.
And that includes looking at it directly through a telescope, through binoculars.
Oh, never. You will blind yourself.
Yeah, never. Through a camera. No.
Yes, and we went out this morning as well for another walk.
We did.
To get our sweat on.
We did. I was a little bit sweaty when I got
Yeah,
back.
but you were a little bit lagging behind at one point, I felt.
Well, you've got longer legs than me,
Yeah,
so
but you
you're
need to step up the
stride.
pace.
Yeah, but you were stepping up the pace, and I was stepping up the
needed
pace.
to.
But my
needed
stepping
to.
up the pace isn't as much as you're stepping up the pace, because you add an extra foot and I only add an extra 8 inches, and therefore for every foot you take, every step you take, I stay 4 inches behind.
Can I just say something? This is that interesting. Let's move on.
I also point out things to you. I point out that yellow and black insect, didn't I?
You're very, very kind, Paul, and very, very helpful.
And the
Thank you.
cinnabar caterpillars.
Yeah, lovely. Let's move on to the next segment.
That dog barked at me, didn't it? Barked in a very happy way, and it had a very waggly tail. Yeah. What's next?
Oh, you're ready now, are you?
Yeah.
What have we watched on television this week, Paul? It's been a bit of a bumper week for TV this week. We've watched some interesting things. I'm going to start off with a YouTube selection. I watched on YouTube, and I don't know how I came across it. You know, sometimes things pop up. Yeah. And it was the original version of The Sound of Music.
What do you mean, the original version?
There was a version of The Sound of Music filmed in Germany, well, made in German, filmed in Austria, I assume. Called the Die Von Trapp family or something in German. I don't speak German.
With Julie Andrews?
No, not with Julie Andrews, with other actors and actresses. But
are there any other?
Not the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's the story of the Von Trapp family singers. And it's on YouTube in pieces. And it's absolutely adorable. I loved it.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I kind of skimmed it, you know, just to get the gist. Beautifully filmed, really sort of looking sort of like a early 50s film. Lovely sort of faded coloration. But it's kind of exactly the same story without Do Re Mi and My Favourite Things and The Lonely Goat Herd.
Yeah, because I mean, the Von Trapps were real, so
Yeah,
I suppose...
Yeah, it's their
I wonder
story.
if Rodgers and Hammerstein will have seen that film.
It looks as though the 1960s version was kind of loosely based on it. It does. Check it out.
Do they have the Von... So they don't actually have the Von Trapps in it?
Not
It's
the
actors.
real Von Trapps.
Right.
No, Paul.
They ended up in America,
Yeah.
didn't they?
It kind of deals with all of that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. I really enjoyed what I saw of it. So that's a recommendation for you.
We enjoyed the live one as well, didn't we, when we saw it? It was
okay.
actually filmed... I mean, everything is filmed live, if you see what I mean.
And also what I've been following
And
on
it was
you-
really interesting.
Yes.
But all the angles that they had to put in. It was done, I think, across 4 sound stages. And it was, we liked that.
The other thing I've been watching and following is the historic event of Richard Branson going into space, to the edge of space, in Virgin Spaceship 1 or whatever it's called. Virgin Galactic. That's Virgin Galactic. Your route into space.
Yeah, if Virgin Galactic want to sponsor us, that's fine.
No.
Would you like to go up into space?
I think it would make me feel a bit ill. I don't think I'd like it. But I would have done maybe 30 years ago. I probably would have said yes. But I don't feel fit enough. I think you've got to be quite fit to go into space. I mean, you couldn't go up, Paul. I don't think that spaceship would get you up there.
I'm sure they must need some ballast of some sort. I could be the ballast.
But anyway, I've been watching that. I don't care what anybody thinks about the money that's been spent on that. Because Virgin do have a responsibility, a social responsibility, whatever it's called these days. But the one thing I would like you to remember, if you disagree with spending money on space travel, there's one unescapable fact that in so many billion years, the Earth is not going to exist. It's going to get swallowed up by the sun. So if we do survive climate change and the human race gets through all that we've got to come...
Which we won't.
Which we probably won't. Humans will need to find another place to live. So they will need to be a spacefaring species at some point. I admire the tenacity, the engineering marvels of this. I think to be able to go up and see the Earth from space is life-changing for those people. And I think it can only be a good thing. So I've been following that, I've been watching that, and I found it terribly interesting. I found it more interesting than the football, let's put it that way. And more historic, really. Really. So that was good. Paul, what else have we watched? Should we watch that bloody awful film, So Bad It Was Good?
Murder at the Black Museum.
No, Horrors of the Black Museum. It was so bad.
It was terrible. It was so terrible you had to watch it. It really was.
And quite shocking.
It was quite shocking in parts.
The first killing.
Yeah. And also the bit with the Ferris wheel thing when he jumped off, and it's an old black and white.
No, it's not. It's colour.
Is it colour?
Yeah.
Oh, it's an old colour. It felt as though it should have been black and white.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be black and white.
And it really, I mean, it's sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde. I think it must have been sort of around that sort of storyline. And of course it's got a mad professor in it who is out to prove something.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a really terrible film.
Terrible. Badly directed. Terrible script. Terrible acting.
Terrible acting.
That actress was in it who's been in Murder, She Wrote.
Yes, she was in it.
Shirley.
That one in it.
Something. Double-barreled name.
Yeah.
She was dire. Must have been her first film. But it was so bad it was good. You know those kind of films, don't you? What else have we watched? We watched an episode of Endeavour.
Last night. Endeavour.
That was fun with the murders and things.
So, I mean, Endeavour is one of my favourite police procedural dramas. And, I mean, it was just great. I must think, how long? They can only have about 10 or 15 years left, because I think they must be in the early 70s and more started in the late 80s.
Early 70s? They're not in the early 70s, are they?
Well, not in that episode, but aren't they now in the early, the last series? I think it's either late 60s or early 70s.
No idea, I don't know.
So there's only a potential sort of 15 years of 18 years left.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I just adore Morse, and the actor is just so brilliant.
I think we should move on to the most interesting bits that we've watched this week.
What was yours?
Well, I think the most interesting TV we've watched has been on the channel Talking Pictures.
Yes.
And we've been watching a series of shorts, which...
Not like shorts as in, sports shorts. Shorts as in short films. Just for clarity.
Short films, old short films, sort of historical slices of history. One of the first ones we watched was a film by John Schlesinger, a very famous director, called Terminus, and we'd never seen this, although apparently it's quite a well-known short film. It's part documentary, part
set up.
Acted. Yeah, set up. But you can't really tell when you're watching it which is which. But
and it's set at Waterloo Station, isn't it?
Carry on. No, carry on. Please feel free, Paul.
It's set at Waterloo Station, and it sort of takes you on a day of Waterloo Station, starting with the arrival of people coming into London to go to work. And it was fascinating, wasn't it? The clothes, people wearing bowler hats, you know, it was just fascinating. Go on.
What was fascinating in particular was you felt as though you were seeing tiny glimpses of people's lives. You only followed them so far, but the way it was directed was they led you through that slice of that person's life that day. So there was the little lost boy on the station, and you were sort of hoping that, you know, Mom was going to find him, or Mom would come to the lost child's place. There was the woman looking for her lost umbrella, and then you saw the thousands of lost umbrellas in the lost property department, which was quite fun.
Yeah, so she's describing her umbrella, and then you go back and there's these thousands.
Thousands all the same. Because, you know, this was when was it? The early 60s?
I guess it was the early 60s, yeah.
61, 62.
Because the boy did he have a tank top on? It was sort of like that early tank top time.
Because he had a tank top on, it was the early 60s.
Well, no, it flowed, tank tops came back and flowed into the 70s, but they were very sort of...
No, it was the early 60s. But the other thing that struck me as well was how well dressed everybody looked.
Absolutely.
And there was a scene where people were saying goodbye, parents saying goodbye to their daughter. I think she was obviously getting married or something, I don't know. And just these slices of life in this one day. I mean, I don't know whether it was filmed over one day or more days, I don't know.
It must have been more days.
The bag lady going through the bins.
Yeah, to try and find food.
The people sleeping on the station overnight. Because they'd missed a train or they were catching an early train, I don't know. But just, if you get a chance to watch it, I really recommend it. It's Terminus.
And it may be on YouTube, I don't know.
Oh, it will be, I'm absolutely sure. But it did win awards.
I think the goodbye scene where they say goodbye to the person on the train, I sort of had the feeling it wasn't sort of marriage, or I had a feeling it was like that person was going to America or something like that. You know, I didn't have the feeling that they might see them in 6 months or a year's time. But what it did actually bring home to me is in normal circumstances in our lives, you can literally hop on a train, go somewhere and come back. In those days, it was a major event. You know, yes, there was a lot of commuting into London for work, things like that, but the average person would only be using a train maybe a couple of times a year to go on holiday. You know, it wasn't something that we were doing regularly as a individual in a society. And I think that's what, you know, this feeling that this person was going away from their family for a long period of time. You know, when I mean, last time we were with Mum, we said to her, see you in 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. And that's the world that we live in now. When you say goodbye to somebody, unless they're going to Australia or long distance, America or something, you can usually go and see them on a regular basis if you can afford to do that. But yeah.
There was also one about life on the Thames, wasn't there?
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
About the docks, about the deliveries, about the boats, about the workers. I mean, I think it's incredible that we've got these documents, that give us that glimpse.
Mm.
Like little time capsules, I think it's incredible. And so much more entertaining than anything else on TV, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
Those are the things that have really, really captured my attention this week.
Yeah. I think the Thames one, I think they started at Battersea and went all the way down, didn't they, to Tilbury and beyond. And the fact that, cruise ships were leaving from Tilbury, I mean, they may still do that. I know Tilbury is still a working dock where many of the places, but I mean, even looking at, do you remember when they showed you the footage of St Paul's Cathedral from the river, because it was all filmed from on the river. So you saw St Paul's Cathedral, and in front of it, we know that as a sort of modern, edifice along the river. This was all warehousing in front of it.
Well, I mean, it all looked terribly dirty and dark and pollution stained, I suppose. There was none of the skyscrapers that you see now in the City of London.
No.
It was totally unrecognisable, but parts of it we recognise because when we came to London in the 80s, there was still a lot of scruffy parts to London, really run down, and
even in central London,
the South Bank was still very run down.
Yeah, I mean that it had the Royal Festival Hall, it had the National Theatre, it had other buildings there, the Shell Building, the Orient Building there, but it wasn't modern.
The streets were filthy.
Yeah.
The tubes were filthy.
Oh, the tubes were. Do you remember the wooden
floors?
Wooden floors.
I remember wooden floors on the escalators.
Yeah. Well, we know what stopped
happened.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember the old tubes. There were several on the Northern Line.
Yeah.
Old rolling stock.
Well, I think the Northern Line, wasn't that really the last line to have new rolling stock?
They had these sort of they were green inside, with really dim lights.
Yeah,
and of course could you still smoke?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think smoking stopped again after King's Cross, didn't it?
I can't quite. I think you could smoke in a station.
Right.
But not on the train.
Right. You certainly can't smoke now.
Well, obviously, you can't smoke anywhere now.
Well, you say obviously. We've got subscribers around the world, and some of them you can smoke. I mean, in America, you can carry guns on trains. So in some states. So yeah.
Anyway, Paul.
But it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Utterly fascinating.
So those were the sort of highlights.
What else have we done? We watched Drag Race.
We did. We watched All Stars. As usual, it's hotting up. I haven't got much to say about All Stars. It is what it is. I mean, it's queens that you've already known. But we're sort of still waiting for this twist to come in.
Game within a game.
So we're waiting for that. I mean, you can do the eliminations and you can kind of guess who's going to go out next. But you get to the point where you think, well, is any of that worth anything if it's a game within a game? And those queens are going to be brought back.
Well, one of the queens will be brought back. I
Well,
would assume.
I don't know.
Because I would assume there's going to be an episode that is going to focus on the game within
Well,
the game.
maybe, but I don't know. That's the whole thing.
No,
so
I know.
it's stringing us out, isn't it, Paul?
It is.
Yes, it is.
I do love Eureka and Ginger Minge, though. I mean, they're my favourites, really.
So that's it.
Is that it?
That's it for this week.
So just a short one this week.
Just a short one this week. Left up to you, it'd be about 3 hours.
Really?
Really.
I think there'd be lots of pauses. Yeah, I'd have
Well,
to
you
think
can't
about
half go
things.
on.
Really?
So we're saying goodbye now. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yes, that's right, Paul. Good. And we'll see you very soon for lots more loveliness. Oh, just to let you know, there will not be a Sunday chat next week. Due to a prior commitment, we will not be able to produce a Sunday chat next week.
Yeah, it'll just be too tight time-wise.
But we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.